Hello everyone. This programme is to bring you up to date on our trip to Harrisburg last month. Peter, Tom, Lauren and I went with Mrs Muirhead to America as international guests on Martin Luther King Jr. This day was centred on the work of Dr King and his vision for equality in the US. Where do we start?
Well, it's hard to say where we start really. There was so much happened that week. There was a big build-up. I know the first thing that we were planning to do was an interview with the Governor of Pennsylvania. His name was Tom Corbett, and I know everybody was very excited about that. I mean, how did you feel about it in advance?
I was quite nervous because he's so high up over in America, and it's not every day you get to speak to someone in his position.
Okay. And did you think it was strange that whenever we were there, we actually had an exclusive interview with him, which meant that there were other media people there, people from local TV stations in Pennsylvania, but they were actually around us. So we were in the middle, remember, before the Governor sitting on us, like round a wee semicircle round him, and then all the media people were behind. So they were really watching you as if you were the professionals, and I have to say, you did a very professional job. So maybe we'll have a look at the first clip and see you interviewing the Governor.
Well, Governor, I just want to thank you for taking your time to talk to us today. So why is Martin Luther King Day an American holiday?
Well, as I indicated in the speech that I gave earlier, it recognizes a day of sacrifice, a day of service to the people of the United States, in recognition of a man who provided a great deal of leadership and a great deal of service to his people. But not just his people, to the entire country, to understand that we can change in a peaceful way by serving others. His vision that we are one people. We may have many different backgrounds, but we are one people here in this country.
Do you have any goals to use technology and digital media in Pennsylvania schools to keep kids share their stories of service and learn from each other around the world?
What I encourage is our students to lead the way, because it was my son who led me to understand what a website was in 1995. And as Attorney General, he got us a website that no other Attorney General in the country has a website, attorneygeneral.gov. So it was the children who led the way. And I think you will, because you understand, you have no limitations of how you want to try that technology, as you're doing here. So I think what it's incumbent upon me is to convince the older people that are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, to embrace the technology and allow technology to be used not only in the classroom, but to be used at home. For instance, we have many school districts who are in the rural sections of Pennsylvania, in the country, and they may not have the ability to have a Spanish teacher or a French teacher or an Irish teacher. And we can certainly work with the Department of Education to allow courses online where a student who wants to take French or Spanish or whatever in that school and get credit for it can do it. So that's just one way of doing that. Another way would be to allow the schools to communicate, to allow a school like Harrisburg High School to become a sister school with your school in Lurgan, and to communicate not just on this one occasion that you're here, but to communicate year-round. And to, instead of pen pals, we now have video pals. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us today. We really appreciate it. Shortly after that, we were interviewed for a state news channel. Mrs Muirhead, we all wondered why you were so relaxed. Did you even realise you were going to be on TV?
No, I had no idea at the time that it was going to be used on the news later that evening. I just thought it was one of those, you know, we'll do the interview and maybe we'll archive it somewhere, and you never know. And it was only later when Chad said, "Did you see yourselves on the news?" that I realised we'd act. In fact, I didn't believe him. Do you remember? So let's have a look at that clip then.
On this Martin Luther King Day, a day of service, nationwide and across the Mid-State, many work to serve others in an effort to honor the legacy and the dream of a civil rights leader.
Also at this day of service, journalism students from Lurgan High School in Northern Ireland, who are making a documentary about this day as their classmates in Ireland watch a live feed.
Martin Luther King Jr. actually had a very big influence on politics in Northern Ireland, because John Hume, the founder and leader of the SDLP political party, he based his politics. He was very inspired as a young man himself by Dr. King.
Governor Corbett served as keynote speaker.
Today, as you set out on your community service, you are going to see a world that is shaped by a man now living in the shadow of the world of the past, Martin Luther King.
So after that then, Victoria, we went and we interviewed the Mayor of Harrisburg. And the plan was really that we would go, Victoria had prepared her questions and the guys were there, and basically she had her own camera crew with her at the same time, and she really interviewed you, Victoria, didn't she? She completely took over, which, you know, we were totally unprepared for it. And I think you did very well, but how did it feel when she was interviewing you?
It sort of gave me an insight to what it's like to be interviewed rather than to be the interviewee. It was a lot different.
Yeah, okay, and she really put you on the spot, asking awkward questions about why we were there that week and what your role was in the studio. And although that wasn't an awkward question because you could answer that, but can you remember any of the things that she did ask you?
She asked just mainly about the studio and about Lurgan and about what we were doing over in America.
Yeah, okay. And she talked really at length as well about her role as mayor and how the two schools, our school would be linked with the Harrisburg school and Pennsylvania having a link with Lurgan. I mean, she talked really quite at length about that. And I think that was maybe in the middle of that one where Tom felt sick, if I remember rightly. Yeah, because I think I had to abandon you and Peter and rush Tom off to the bathroom. And but thankfully he was okay after that, and he's probably going to kill me for saying that now and telling everybody. But he was grand. So let's have a wee look at the clip of the Mayor of Harrisburg.
As a public servant, what have you learned from serving others?
That it is about serving others, and that's the greatest reward a human being can receive. It's just something on the inside that gets stirred up when you see that as an elected official, most people are taught to honor their elected officials and that they are to serve their elected officials. But oh no, elected officials are supposed to serve the people. And so when I get out there and I get my hands involved with homeless people and I let them hug me and I hug them, when I serve them food and when I sit at the same table and eat with them, that does so much inside of me, because it lets me know that they are human just like me. While I may be their mayor, my job is to make sure that I make their lives better through policy and through programs and services. And by getting out there and actually lifting my hands with others makes me know that I am not above the people. I came to serve and not be served.
From your perspective, why is it important for people to get involved in service?
It's important because not one person can save the world, and that's what Dr. King talked about, that our collective voice tore down the walls of bigotry in America. Our collective voices shamed those people who thought they were better because of the color of their skin. Our collective voices challenged the economic engine of America to say that we have so much more to work on, because the 1% is really a reality. 1% of the wealth is being controlled by 1% of the population, and that's truly not what equity is all about. And so again, we need to really continue to fight the good fight on the issues that impact us all, because Dr. King said any injustice against you affects everyone everywhere. And so we have to be mindful of that and not think of ourselves to be so highly, but to think of others to be more highly than us. And so I want the young kids to know that today is a day to act, and act with urgency. Action calls us triumph, and what we're doing here today is another way of showing kids, don't give up, don't lose faith. If you look like you're losing, that's when you really should dig in and continue to move forward with the issues that you feel so passionate about, because it's going to change not only one person's life, but millions. And that's really what service is about, how you affect the lives of those who are at a young age and ultimately will grow up and say that the seed that you planted in them then was the seed that got them to where they are tomorrow. And that tomorrow could be the President of the United States that you helped create.
Thank you very, very much, Mayor.
Okay, so that you can certainly see that she really, she knew how to talk, Victoria, didn't she? She gave you a run for your money. Yeah. One of the things that she was talking about there was equality. So what was the thing maybe that struck you and the rest of the pupils that were with us for that week about the importance of equality in life?
Well, whenever we went down to the Black Church on Sunday with Chad, it was amazing to see the black and the white, they mixed so well together, and just their different way of worshipping, their different way of doing things. Although it may have been different, it still worked for them and it was still right, and they just loved it.
Okay, so there was a really good sense of tolerance amongst people in different communities there. We noticed the whole week, wasn't there? Where it didn't matter if somebody was different, they were accepted for their difference, but equally they accepted others for their difference. I think one of the things that we noticed particularly about that was whenever we saw the Amish community, and I know because you've talked a lot about that you were really struck by that. What were your impressions of the Amish?
Just the level of respect that they have for each other, it's unbelievable. Like, it puts so many people over here to shame. They respect each other, and whenever we went round to the man who was making the shovels, like, he just dropped everything and decided to talk to us. It was amazing. Yeah,
so we were more important to him than his business in that moment, because we were people, and that was more important. And what about in the Amish school? Because I think, you know, our pupils might be interested in hearing what the Amish school was like.
Yeah, there was a room filled with about 30 pupils aged about 7 to 14, and on the wall there was a rule, and it said no communication at all throughout the classroom, and I looked at it and I thought, never going to happen, but it did. They didn't speak, but yet they were happy. They weren't complaining. They weren't grumpy. They just did their work. And
what was the classroom furniture like?
It was all wooden. The desks were all connected. Like, the chairs and the desks were all connected in a big long row to the front.
So have you ever been to the Oma Folk Park here? No, you haven't? You have to go to the Oma Folk Park. If any of you have been to the Oma Folk Park, you'll have seen an old-fashioned classroom, and that's really what the Amish classroom was like. It was these old wooden desks that were attached to wooden chairs, and the chairs flipped up and the desks flipped up, and I mean, it was so old-fashioned looking compared to what we have in school here. It was really very different. Compare that to the school that we were in, the elementary or the primary school, where we actually did all the MLK stuff. We remember the facilities that they had. Tell them what that was like.
There was a big gymnasium, a big massive stage and all these seats, and then the corridors were massive and the classrooms were just huge, and they had a big computer suite, did everything.
Yeah, what was their auditorium was the equivalent of our assembly hall. And can you remember what your comment was when you walked in?
I didn't believe that it was a primary school. I thought it was like some university over there.
It was like just this huge tiered auditorium with all these lovely comfortable chairs that were going up, and a huge big stage, and this was where they held their school assemblies, and this was just a primary school, so we were kind of thought, per Lurgan Junior High School, we thought maybe it's a lot to live up to, you know. And their big gymnasium, as you say, was, you know, it was just used as a gym, whereas our gyms are doubled up sometimes as assemblies. So you went then to see a lunch club after that, and did a bit more filming on that. So what was that about?
Well, later on that day we took a trip down to Dunsante, where there was a group of Messiah students working on a community garden, and they were having lunch, and I got to talk to one of the guys that was in charge.
Okay, let's have a look.
Today?
Well, today is MLK Day, a day of service. We have about 100 volunteers working on all different projects. We have a community art garden, which is a reclaimed space, which had a building that was degenerate, and we had it knocked down, and we've reclaimed that space to make a community art garden. We've also worked on a mural of Dr. King. We have several art projects with the children. We've been cleaning up our center and cleaning up the neighborhood as well.
What benefits does service have on the community?
Well, speaking from experience, I grew up serving. I started volunteering when I was very young, and I think for the people doing the serving, it's incredibly powerful, and it changes you as a person. For the community itself, for the community to be part of the people who are volunteering, and then also see that other people care about the community or are willing to lend a hand, it can create hope in a community and create some positive activity to move forward.
What does Martin Luther King Day mean to you?
Well, for us, it's a great opportunity to get a lot of projects accomplished. But in terms of his legacy, we actually have a mural of Dr. King as soon as you walk into our art center. And what it means is that people from all different backgrounds, we have a multicultural center, people from all different backgrounds can come into our center and respect the vision of Dr. King, so we can all work together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, after that, we went back round the corner to where the Messiah students were working on the community garden, and I got an exclusive interview with Chad Fry, the man who was in charge of bringing us over. And
just before you say that, do tell them that the WITF were following you around that day.
As a news station over there was following us quite a day, and we're taking quite a lot of our interviews, and in the next clip you'll be able to see a microphone saying WITF on it. So let's take a look.
So what have you been doing today?
My day has been a little bit of everything. I've been at Camp Curtin in the morning, working on the program where I introduced the team from Northern Ireland, which is you. And now I've been going around to different project sites, seeing volunteers working in the city. Stories of Service is the chance for students to tell the stories of what's happening. So I'm just watching and getting feedback from their day, how things are going for them, and whether or not they're getting the stories they need to get to share with others.
What benefits do you think service has on the community?
I think service is incredibly important. It's important for 5 different reasons. The first one is it helps us understand our basic worldview, what life is all about. When you serve other people, you get a sense of meaning and purpose and what life is all about. It also helps us understand ourselves better, who we are, what gifts we have, what we think is important. It helps us understand other people, the world around us. It helps us to situate things in context. So a lot of time things happen in the world and in the news, and we don't really understand the people and the really particular places that happens in. So it helps us put things in perspective, put things in place. And then lastly, it helps us be more responsible with the decisions that we make and the actions that we take.
What does Martin Luther King Day mean to you?
Martin Luther King Day is a prophetic day for me. It's a day where the world is trying to be something that it's not. It's a vision, it's a dream, and it's holding out in front of people this picture of a peaceable kingdom, a beloved community where people care about each other, where they're working together for a common purpose, for the common good. Unfortunately, our world's broken, and it's not the way it should be. So Martin Luther King Day is a picture of what could be.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So obviously Martin Luther King Day was the main focus of our trip, but we also managed to take in a trip to Gettysburg, which was the American Civil War site. We also had a day trip to Washington DC, and we saw the new Martin Luther King Memorial, which we did some filming at that as well, which we're going to see shortly. And we also, as I've said, we had a trip around an Amish community, and we spent the day there with them. So what do you think?
Yeah, you know, just seeing it all just brings back all the memories that we had while we were away. We've put together some footage that we shot during the week, so we'll leave you with that.
What do you think you're going to take back with you that will affect you when you get back, or affect you as you get older?
Well, I think, to know that it's the same over here, that everyone should be equal, no matter where you're from or what you believe in or what colour your skin is. Everybody is, is the same, really.
Yeah, and just have the same right to be treated well. Yeah.
Let's welcome them. These folks have taken a very, very long plane ride from Northern Ireland to be here. I've been going for about 10 years now to Lurgan Junior High School, taking students from the college, and I have really come to see what Dr. King meant when he said that everyone can be great because everyone can serve. I've seen that in the lives of these children because in Northern Ireland, their context is divided by sectarianism. Here in Harrisburg, we've had our fair share of violence. And in Northern Ireland, these students and teachers have seen quite a bit too. Dr. King's vision for peace is something that is just as applicable around the world and in Northern Ireland as it is here. Perhaps one of the most inspiring things in my journeys has been to see these children use digital media to tell the stories of their community in their school. They have been doing exciting things with social media. They've been doing exciting things with video. And one of the teachers, Mrs. Marina Moorhead, is here. Marina, would you share a little bit about what you're doing and then introduce your team? Let's welcome Marina.
Thank you. The studio that we run in our school is a really unique and incredibly innovative tool for teaching and learning.
And through it, the students, they learn media skills, so they're learning production and planning, researching, reporting, interviewing and presenting skills, camera work, sound and vision mixing, live streaming, and these 4 students that are with me today are part of that. Through that, they also learn soft skills. The whole school are involved, and they learn self-confidence. They have notably improved in their self-confidence throughout the school. They have gained knowledge and understanding of both themselves and their own community, but also widening their horizons to outside of their community through their work in the studio. They're learning communication skills as well. And the studio has really created opportunities and experiences for students that they would not otherwise have, not least of which being here today with you to commemorate Dr. King and his life and legacy. Through it, we broaden their horizons. We teach them that life is not just about them. There is a big wide world out there beyond their own community, and they access it through the studio in part. It has also been inspirational to us as teachers as well as the students, because it has really affected how we teach. It has helped us to think outside the box. It has helped us to develop different projects and encourage the students to be involved in those.
I might mention that the entire school from Lurgan is watching us right now. So let's just wave and say hi, Lurgan.
And today, the kids from Ireland are over here bonding with the kids of Harrisburg School District, Messiah College, Stilton High Spire, SciTech, and they all have captured the eyes of the movement, and they're going to be absolutely carrying out this movement by being keepers of the dream. Let's talk about what you're doing here today.
What they're going to do now is what they do, and they're 11 to 14-year-olds.
Good.
Yeah. So,
Well, as I say, shoot.
Well, Governor, I just want to thank you for taking your time to talk to us today. What are some of the things you do as the Governor of Pennsylvania?
So we bring you civic readings on this tomorrow.
Oh, thank you very much. Wow, I appreciate this. Now, this is a wonderful memorabilia, and I am so honored to receive this. I get a lot of international memorabilia, and this is a special one, because what you're doing matters to the world. You know, it's going to show that Northern Ireland kids have the courage to stand up in some of the most divisive issues, and it's those kinds of issues that really bring you monumental triumph. You know, I attended a service yesterday, and the theme was remember, celebrate, and act now. And the acronyms that I thought of for ACT was Action Causes Triumph. And what you're doing today through retaining the stories of service is certainly an act that calls triumph. So God bless you and your brilliancy, and continue to let the Northern people know that we are with them, and that they have a mayor in the city of Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania, who loves them so very much.
Pennsylvania is a good place to talk about this, because we have a tradition of peacemakers of this sort. We were founded by William Penn, a Quaker. He worked to prevent war. He put his faith in God, and he dealt fairly with the tribes when he founded his colony. And you students that are visiting from Lurgan should know something else. James Logan, the man who administered Pennsylvania for William Penn when he first came here, who ran the state on his behalf, was from your town. And I see they're nodding. Yes, we already know that. They got their history lesson before this. He was born in Lurgan in 1674, but he's buried here in the state that he helped create in 1751. So as you join in this day of service, you are continuing more than 300 years of service, one that has long connected our two countries.
What benefits do you think service has on the community?
I think service is incredibly important. It's important for 5 different reasons. The first one is it helps us understand our basic worldview, what life is all about. When you serve other people, you get a sense of meaning and purpose in what life is all about. It also helps us understand ourselves better, who we are, what gifts we have, what we think is important. It helps us understand other people, the world around us. It helps us to situate things in context. So a lot of time things happen in the world and in the news, and we don't really understand the people and the really particular places that happens in. So it helps us put things in perspective, put things in place. And then lastly, it helps us be more responsible with the decisions that we make and the actions that we take.
I'm Mrs. Murhead.
What was your favourite part?
Well, I'm kind of a bit like Lauren, where it's hard to say what my favourite part was because there's been so much that's so good and hard to take in. I agree, I really like the Amish experience and seeing how different people live and how they live so simply, and the whole sense of community and serving each other and looking out for each other.
It's like one big family.
I think,
well, we went to the Amish school while there was children in it.
And what did it look like?
It was literally just one wee room with desks the whole way up to the front and a big massive blackboard, because there was like children from 1st grade right up to 8th grade, so the teacher would have to teach all of them, and you could see like the different like sections for each of the different grades. And then on the walls there was the classroom rules, and one of them was no communication allowed in the room, which was quite strange.
Okay, so can you imagine what it would be like in your school if you were not allowed to talk at all, other than to ask the teacher or answer the teacher?
It wouldn't happen.
They wouldn't abide by it.
They're not I think the Amish, it sort of displays so much more discipline, like, and self-control, that you really don't have to talk all the time.
Yeah.
Because like they're obviously learning, because like they were happy. It's not as if they were sad and grumpy or anything, but they were always happy and smiling. And then they were told that they had to do chores, and they didn't care. They just did it.
Yeah. So
because they were told to do it.
What kind of chores did they do at the end of the day?
They just sweep the floors. I think they to clean the windows or something. Yeah. Stuff that we would.
And they tidy up, so they don't really have school cleaners. They'll come in and sweep the way we do.
Yeah.
So do you think, does that maybe give them more of an appreciation of what they have?
We take it for granted that somebody's going to come in and do that for us, whereas they have to do it themselves, so they won't make a mess or anything, more respect for it.
So here we are in Washington DC at the Washington Monument. We drove from Messiah College this morning to Shady Grove, then took the metro from there to Smithsonian in DC. Here we are at the War Monuments in Washington DC. On each pillar is the name of a state or province in the US. So here we are at the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Let's go and have a look.
Has it been in any way a life-changing experience for you? Will you go back to Northern Ireland with any different attitudes or any new attitudes, do you think?
Well, it just shows that like things really aren't so different. Like there are people struggling all over the world. It's not just your little hometown that have their problems, because really everyone does. Talking to the mayor yesterday, she was saying how she does care about us, and like you make new friendships and you really do learn a lot about so many other people.
Okay, Lauren, what do you think you'll take back?
Just to respect other people and not to take anybody for granted, because everybody's like equal and nobody should be treated different for any different reasons, what background they come from, their race or anything.